Ryan Snyder's been through a lot of these, but this is one of the more telegraphed commitment flips I've seen in a while. Penn State fans, congratulations. You get first receiver in the class of 2024. So, Ryan, take us through what's been going on the last couple days with Nittany Lions.
Yeah, well, I mean, Tyseer Denmark, of course, just committed this evening. It looks like it's been the last couple of days, but really, man, this has been going on for months. I mean, obviously, he committed to Oregon in November, and, the pursuit really never finished. I'm sure there was a period right after his commitment where, Penn State maybe took a little bit of a back seat, but, all throughout the spring, we consistently heard that there was communication between, either people at Roman or trainers close to Tyseer, and I'm sure Tyseer himself to some degree. But of course, we at one point we reported he was going to visit in April, and I don't know, fans can maybe be mad at us for reporting that because it didn't happen then. I think when it got out there, that's why it didn't happen. So sorry, guys. Sometimes that's why we keep things quiet, because it usually then ends up burning Penn State or us or whatever it is. But anyway, he ends up joining the class, of course, after an official visit this past weekend. And as you said, I mean, telegraphed is kind of the right word. I mean, that once we knew he was on campus, it was pretty obvious that the direction that this could potentially go. But, for a long time, it's been thought that, is he really going to go all the way to the West Coast? And with Penn State really kind of hard, consistently staying hard on that recruitment, I'm not surprised at all with the way this played out.
How important of a receiver prospect is Denmark to Penn State, either from a game perspective or from a recruiting relationship perspective, Roman Catholic? How important are all of those factors into him being a priority for the Nittany Lions?
Well, they need a talent upgrade at that position, and he's a 4-star guy, right? So that's a good place to start. On3 ranks him as number 229 nationally. The industry rating, which of course has ESPN 24/7 Rivals, and On3 has him at number 235 nationally. So pretty consistent there, between that 150 to 250 range between the major sites. From a relationship perspective, look, Philadelphia is incredibly important to Penn State. Philadelphia now is equally as talented or more talented than the Western PA, which I think for the longest time has been considered the hotbed for Pennsylvania, and now Philadelphia I think is probably producing more players on a regular basis. So just from that perspective, it's important. Obviously, they got Nittany Lions last year, so the Roman Catholic relationship's strong. But really, it's everybody in Philly. A lot of guys, I don't say everybody, but a lot of guys train together, have good relationships. They go to different rival schools, but there's a lot of strong relationships mixed between them all. So just consistently staying on top of getting the best talent from Philadelphia, I think, is massively important. But look, I guess what I would say as far as like on the field, like, they're gonna take a bunch of guys this year, and one or two of them's gonna play out, one or two of them's not gonna play out. Whether that's Tyseer, whether that's someone else down the road, time will tell. I do think he from seeing him last year certainly has good hands, good speed. I don't know. Do we have a measurement on his speed, T. Frank? Have you ever seen any 40 times or anything like that? I don't think I have
seen anything.
But, I got to watch him against Wilson last year. Certainly, man, he had a heck of an impact on that game. Long kick return, multiple big catches. I'm trying to pull up the stats here now. I should have probably prepared that before we got on video here. But great player. I mean, whether he's a difference maker down the road, I still kind of have, like, in my eyes, there's Chance Robinson, there's Nick Marsh, and then there's a group of other guys. Peter Gonzalez, Tyseer, Jeray Hawkins, Josiah Brown. I'm sure I'm missing somebody who, don't get me wrong, I think they can absolutely be difference makers, but I kind of have Chance and Nick Marsh in that upper category of guys that I think could come and make an impact right away. And I think Tyseer could certainly play early, but I think it's also it has to do the little things right to get on the field.
How does Marcus Hagans fit into this whole journey of Tyseer Denmark going from Oregon to Penn State. Now, what have you heard about his work behind the scenes with this class, which, as we've detailed before, started out not so great, and now there's a lot of great options here for Penn State that they're in the mix with this summer?
Well, I mean, if I'm being honest with you, I mean, no one's really done a lot of interviews yet, so like it's kind of hard for me to answer that at the moment.
Gotcha.
What I would say is Higgins has recruited him hard, but Higgins has recruited all of these guys hard. Now, with that said, Terry Smith is the one who really kind of, I don't want to say runs the show in Philadelphia, but he's the one that has primarily the majority of those relationships. So, not that I want to take anything away from Higgins, but like Philadelphia. Like, for example, they're going to get some other commitments here from other wide receivers in the weeks ahead that I think Higgins had a bigger role with than probably Tyseer Denmark. But again, I mean, since his visit, everyone's been pretty quiet in Philadelphia, and even on the Penn State side, it's just because I think it's kind of been telegraphed, right? All RPMs like this was coming, but I don't think too many people want to really kind of get it out there until it was official. So in my eyes, I'm sure Higgins had a hand in it, but Terry Smith is always going to be the guy that I think really, I'm not going to say gets over the line. I'm sure Higgins had a big role in that. But again, he's the guy who I think does primarily the majority of the recruiting, at least relationship-wise in Philadelphia.
You do an excellent job going to games in the region, identifying Penn State's top targets and which ones you're going to go see. I know having Nittany Lions on the same team is a benefit, but having seen Denmark in person, I have one question for you, and I know that I don't want to put you on the spot when it comes to like stuff you don't necessarily like talking about or have the expertise of, but having seen him in person, what do you think of his physical frame and his ability to grow? Because to me, like, I'm going to transition into a film room in just a second, but that's one piece of information I'm very curious about.
Yeah, I mean, he's a legit 5'10", 180. I feel like he can certainly add some weight. But again, last time I saw Tyseer was a year ago, August, Right. So, I mean, he hasn't been in any camps. He committed to Oregon in November. So, I'm basing that off of 11 months ago, 10 months ago, right? So let's go see him. I mean, that's the only thing I can really say. I mean, we haven't gotten the opportunity to really see him up close. He's been committed to Oregon for so long.
Yeah. So a lot of interesting stuff about Tyseer Denmark. I think he's the most, I think in my own mind, he's polarizing between what I think of him and what he can be. And that's why I'm interested 5'10", 180. A lot of comparisons by fans, I think, especially when I say elite lateral agility, special, unique escapability in a short area. But I did find a number, and his 40 time, I don't know how old this number is, so I'm not going to use this as the identifier of this is how fast he is, but a 4.77 tracks with he is quicker than fast. And the whole thing about Jahan Dotson is he came into school pretty small, and worked his way up through the strength and conditioning program to get faster and to get more explosive. Denmark already at 180 pounds. That's my question is, does he have the room for improvement in his speed time? The answer is always yes, right? So Penn State fans, when they go into the speed training program at Penn State, almost every player is able to get faster. But what's the appreciable difference between a 4.77, 4.6, 4.5, 4.4? Where in that range does he land? Because speed is one of the most important things. And for a guy that is 5'10", to not have elite speed, I think that there is, in my mind, a certain amount of concern that what made Dotson great is he wasn't a slot-only receiver. He actually started on the outside because KJ Hamler was the slot receiver, and that was his role. So Dotson had to play, kind of that boundary Z role. Does Denmark have the ability to separate on the outside? Does he have the speed to do that? That's going to be my biggest question about him, because otherwise, this is a guy who has dropped down the rankings a little bit, but at the same time has some of those fundamental skills from a slot receiver position that are just unbelievably rare. His short area separation, his elusiveness as a receiver in the slot, that is what you're looking for. Those two-way goes, the ability to create separation against a man or zone defender and get wide open for the quarterback. I do believe he can do that, but then it just becomes the ceiling. And Ryan, you've been talking about Penn State getting bigger this whole time, right? Under Marcus Higgins, and they want to get bigger this year. And here's a 5'10 receiver. They're starting out with a 5'10 receiver. So I know that it's not always painted in one way, but it is just very interesting that they're starting with exactly what they've been getting recently, which is a hyper-athletic, probably slot receiver with some unique skills, with some pretty unique skills. So I find this particular edition, the first of this class, to be very interesting in the journey Penn State's trying to take at the receiver position.
For sure. I mean, they're gonna take 5 receivers, I feel like. You have Dre Hawkins out there, who's another smaller guy, 5'9", 160. But you have Nick Marsh, a legit 6'3", 198, and you have Peter Gonzalez, legit 6'2", 200. So I think those are going to be your 2 size guys. If they can get Nick Marsh and Peter Gonzalez, I feel pretty confident Peter's going to be there. We had picks in for Nick Marsh, but I'm not as confident today as I was in that pick a while ago, and that's something we can discuss down the road. But I want to see Josiah Brown as well. That's another guy that, he doesn't have a lot of size either. So it's really going to end up being Marsh and Peter Gonzalez as the 2 guys that, can play probably outside. And then, if they can get Chance Robinson, great. But I don't know if that's trending in their direction right now.
Yeah. So the receiver class is going to be interesting. That's why we're starting the primers over at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com, written extensively about all of these guys if you want to check out that information. Like this video, if you've made it 11 minutes through the video, you are having a great time learning about Tyseer Denmark, even if I have maybe not been as glowing and happy for you as fans might want. Well, you know what I mean. Like, we come in here with a reasonable, balanced opinion of this is a very good prospect, but is this the... And then it's like, but why isn't he perfect, and why won't you say those things? So if you're here, you like nuance, please like the video and subscribe. Ryan, BlueWhiteIllustrated.com, what else are you looking at now that we're heading into the final official visit weekend, and we're then going on to commitment season, essentially, which is what happens at the beginning of early July?
Yeah. Well, let's see. What do we got going on this week? Well, I think we're going to have Peter Gonzalez later in the week. He hasn't put a date out there yet, but it's consistently been later in the week, maybe over the weekend. That's a lot of people have kind of mentioned that. So keep an eye on Peter Gonzalez later in the week. And then really, this weekend's official visits are going to be interesting because we're getting to that point where I could see some new names popping up, guys we haven't discussed a whole lot. Just a lot of guys are committing elsewhere, and even some of Penn State's top targets committing elsewhere. So I'm really curious to see if there's going to be some new names sprinkled in for this visit. And that's really something I'm going to be working on all evening here, trying to figure out heading into obviously Thursday and Friday. But I think the main thing fans need to know is that wide receiver, defensive line, like the dominoes are about to fall. And here you get your first one here at wide receiver. Obviously, they already have Xavier Gilliam committed on the defensive line, but I think you're seriously looking at another 3 wide receivers at least, maybe 4. And I think you're obviously looking at, 5, 6 more defensive linemen between edge, and maybe even 7 if they all actually end up going to Penn State. But my point is, this is all going to happen very quickly. The beginning of July is going to be hectic, I guess is the best way to put it. Great for fans, great for hectic for us, I guess is the best way to put it, T. Frank. But that's good. That's what Penn State strives to do coming out of these official visits is to go on a run here in early July and have your class, if it's not all the way done, 80-90% done. And I think the way things are trending, there's certainly a good chance here that they're at 25 commitments by the time the season starts. And that number I thought was going to be like 22, 21. Well, I think everybody's just about, I just think the dominoes are about to fall quickly.
And the first one to fall is Tyseer Denmark, quality receiver commit in the class of 2024. He is, according to the On3 industry ranking, again, pulling that up for you, 235th in the nation. So this is an On300 player. Penn State gets a flip from Oregon and starts their receiver commitment streak. We'll see how far it goes. I'm Thomas Frank Carr. He is Ryan Snyder. Please subscribe to Blue White Illustrated here on YouTube. Once again, go over to BlueWhiteIllustrated.com so you get all the insider information. That'll do it right now. We'll be back with more. As Ryan just said, the dominoes are about to fall. So subscribe and don't miss anything from Blue White Illustrated.